Uncle Bud's a man like this. He can't get a woman, gonna use his fist. Uncle Bud.
Zora Neale Hurston put her hometown of Eatonville, Florida on the map with heartfelt stories, folklore, and songs like this one. When she worked for the Depression-era Works Progress Administration, or WPA, Stetson Kennedy was one of her editors. He convinced her to share what she'd collected from Florida's rural heart.
Toward the end, I asked Zora if she knew a song called Uncle Bud. And she said, yes, I know it. And I said, what kind of song would you call that? And she said, well, that's one of those juke songs.
What, is it sung before the respectable ladies?
Never. It's one of those juke songs. And the woman that they sing Uncle Bud in front of is a juke woman. And
of course you heard it from women.
Yes, I heard it from women.
Every community on earth should wish they would have a Zora Hurston to do the same for them.
But that's not always how residents here have felt. The Eatonville Zora described in the WPA Florida Guide was a private protective place, and the community has struggled, like Zora, with ebbs and flows of respect. Its personality hasn't changed. Despite pressure from sprawling Orlando, it still feels like a small, independent town. This was one of the first black municipalities to incorporate back in the 1880s. The Franklins have been living in the area for generations and have worked hard to preserve Eatonville's history.
To myself, I'm proud. I love Eatonville. I'm proud of it because I can look back and how a few 27 black men got together and started this town, and it's still lasting. So I'm proud of that.
Mr. Franklin remembered seeing Zora drive into town when he was a boy. A star of the Harlem Renaissance, she was the center of attention here at home.
Oh yeah, they would crowd around, and she was glad to see Zora. She'd go off and stay a couple of years, and she would always come back to Eatonville.
But his sister said that sometimes people were taken aback by what Zora was sharing about their community. For example, in the Florida Travel Guide, she suggested that Lee Glenn was selling alcohol and, quote, whatever goes with transient rooms.
You know, she would write about things without their permission.
Ella Dinkins agreed that her neighbors were not always happy.
Some of them didn't like what she was saying because she told the truth. If you had a girlfriend and you had a wife, she told you had a girlfriend and named the girlfriend. She just told it like it was.
But personally, Miss Dinkins didn't really mind.
In Mules and Men, I think she talked about the beautiful Johnson girls. And they were, who were the Johnson girls? Well, there were 4 of us. My mother had 8 children, so there were 4 boys and 4 girls.
So wait, were you one of the Johnson girls?
I was one of the Johnson girls.
Oh, see, I didn't realize.
She shake like jelly all over.
Eventually, Zora Neale Hurston left Eatonville for good. Her books went out of print, and she died penniless and alone in Fort Pierce, Florida in 1960. Zora's home was eventually torn down, as was the famous Joe Clark store that used to sit across the street. The town had hit some hard times.
We had everything we needed out here. Then all of a sudden, integration came in, and everything just fell apart.
The local college preparatory high school became a technical school for the county, and Eatonville's students were bussed out to other areas, which diluted the town's cohesiveness.
For example, black students, black children, were accustomed to being hugged. I mean, I remember this. You hug your teacher in the morning or you hug your teacher at night. I mean, that's just what happened. You were not hugging your white teacher because your white teacher, I mean, if that's not the way, that's a cultural divide there.
Then, in the 1980s, the county tried to push a highway through the community's main street. And that's when things started to change.
I mean, it was pretty bizarre. They were talking about, as I said, they were going to 5 Lane Kennedy. I think they had 3 retention ponds. 3 retention ponds that they were going to put in at 1.3 miles of road. 3 of them. And one of them was going to be in the park.
With her mom and others, the town rebelled. To fight back, residents founded the Association to Preserve the Eatonville Community. And NY began planning a festival to show off the community's ties to Zora Neale Hurston. In 1990, the first Zora Festival took place and was a major success, attracting 10,000 people.
You had Alice Walker who came, and Ruby Dee, and Robert Hemingway, and all these people were coming from out of the area, coming to Eatonville. Well, something was going on.
The festival now happens every year, putting Eatonville back on the map. Kennedy Boulevard never did become a highway. In 1998, the town joined the National Historic Registry. And in 2006, Eatonville got a new library, named, of course, after Zora. Today, the town has 2,100 people, up from 136 in 1939 when the Florida Guide was published. It's still poorer than the surrounding communities, but it's also a pleasant, mostly happy place where people tell stories on their porches, enjoy the local lakes, and flock to church on Sundays. In fact, a growing number of families from outside Eatonville now come here for services like this one at the church where Zora Neale Hurston's father used to preach. And here, even the youngest members now recognize what Zora always knew, that Eatonville is a place of independence and beauty, embarrassing stories and all.
And most people, if they just drive through here, they'll think, oh, this city is nothing compared to any of the other ones. But if you actually stop and take a moment to look into the history, it's a very nice city.
But my slow drag will bring you back, well, you may go, but this will bring you back.